What's up, beautiful souls? It's a pleasure to bring to you the Spiritual Psychiatrist podcast. And there's a lot of beautiful souls behind this. And our intention is literally to give you the best information, the most truthful information that can help you in your life be 100% free physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And so that is our pledge to you. And our intention to you is to create the best possible podcast for you and to add as much value to you. And in exchange, if you benefit or if you receive value from this podcast, we would truly appreciate it if you can subscribe, share, let your friends know, because that really helps us and brings the energy flow back so we can continue to pour energy into you. Thank you so much for honoring the reciprocal energy exchange. And if this calls to you, subscribe, share, and we will continue to bring forth to you the best podcast we possibly can. In this podcast episode, we dive into the Great Planetary Bifurcation. If you haven't noticed yet, there's a polarization of frequencies happening right now. This is what Jesus talked about, separation of the wheat from the chaff, and it's happening right now. And 2025 to 2030 are going to be very, very important years. And we literally dive into what's happening in the planet, how it's bifurcating. One is the Christ spiral, which leads to eternal life, Base-12. One is a Base-10 finite code, which leads to space dust return. And we literally dive into the mechanics of what's happening, how to align to the eternal life Christ spiral, and why this is important for such an important inflection point in humanity's history. Check it out. I hope you are able to get a lot from this episode. Love, light, peace, and truth to all sentient beings. If you haven't heard yet, peptides work. And it's taken me a while to really believe this, but I know it to be true now. I've witnessed so many people's lives being changed and shifted by peptides. There's 15 years of research, that I've spoken to experts that show that peptides work. But most importantly, I'm an experiential psychiatrist. And so I tried the peptides personally for myself. And I'm not talking about research peptides from China. I'm talking about real, straight made in USA from a compounding shop pharmacy, pure peptides, which are short chain amino acids. They're like little light signals in the body, and when you inject them orally or you take them through an insulin needle, it literally turns on certain pathways in your body to produce more energy, all different types of things. You can lose weight with it, you can build muscle with it, you can anti-age with it, you can grow hair with it. There's so many different pathways that peptides can turn on in the body. So I am officially a firm believer, and that's why we started limitlesslivingmd.com, which sponsors this podcast episode. And so peptides, literally, no matter what you're trying to do in your life, health is your greatest wealth. And there's a reason why the FDA tried to ban peptides, and the reason why RFK said the first thing he's going to do when he gets into office is legalize peptides, because they work. They can help with all different types of health conditions. And we have at limitlesslivingmd.com created a company. We want to make these affordable for everyone. Pure pharmaceutical peptides delivered straight. You can order it straight from your home. And if you don't know where to begin, we're offering a special free 15-minute consult with a peptide coaching expert who can literally get you on the right peptide, but most importantly, the right dosing. That's really important. There's a lot of people right now being overdosed on certain peptides. So the right peptide, the right dose, ordered from your home, delivered straight to your home within 3 to 5 days with everything you need to get started on the peptides. A lot of these other companies aren't giving you everything you need, and there's clear educational material on how to get started. So if this is you, you're curious about peptides, you feel called to experiment with peptides and get into your best physical health shape, there's a QR code that I've been talking on. Click that QR code, or in the links below, click that QR code for a free 15-minute consult with a healthcare expert, peptide expert, who can help you figure out which peptide is best for you, what dose to get started on, and within 3 to 5 days, if that's the route you decide to go, it can be delivered straight to your house. So I'm really excited about the magic of peptides and helping people with peptides, because it's been helping me, and I know that it can help you. So check it out, limitlesslivingmd.com. Use the code Dr. Lee, DRLEE, for 15% off. new global paradigm of mental health. Let's go. Welcome to another episode of the Spiritual Psychiatrist Podcast. Thanks for being here. Gratitude for your presence. And we're going to dive right into it today. The topic for today's podcast is called the Great Planetary Bifurcation. So if you're not aware of it, right now is a very important inflection point in humanity's history, especially from 2025 to 2030. There literally is a polarization of frequencies happening. One is going to diverge, timeline split into the eternal life, Base-12, morphogenetic field, Christic Spiral timeline. This is math. And there's cycles, and this is a divergent cycle right now. And so humanity is deciding, Mother Earth is deciding, and every single soul is going to have a choice. The other timeline is going to split off into a Base-10 finite life, consume energy to create energy, the need for greed, literally, and that's going to diverge into another timeline, a polarization of frequencies. And this is what Jesus talked about when he said there's going to come a time where they will separate the wheat from the chaff. This is it. We're literally living through it. And so today we're going to dive into the Great Planetary Bifurcation. We're going to dive into some of the science behind it. But before we begin, I would like to set the frequency. So by the love of original eternal source, consciousness field, we have come, we have come. We set a barrier now on the physical, emotional, mental, spiritual plane around this podcast, around everybody listening. The frequency of love, the most powerful healing force on the planet. We welcome those eternal beloved counsels of love. We command all other beings to leave now. By the truth of original eternal source, consciousness field, we stand. The truth will set us free, and we are free indeed. We are free, we are free, we are free. So I pray, sanctify my throat chakra that only truth may come forward. By the power of original eternal source, consciousness field, we fly. 144,000 have arrived. Stars in my mind have aligned, and we are the ones we've been waiting for the whole time. So we welcome each one of us to step into our power. Unapologetically, unconditioned, unprogrammed, a unique oscillatory, vibratory reflection of source for such a beautiful, amazing, important inflection point in humanity's history. By the way of original eternal source go I, and by the grace, always grace, I now sanctify and renew this podcast episode. So the divine protector of the original eternal life, founders races, Melchizedek, the cloister, and my daughter. Original, eternal, Base-12, source consciousness field for the liberation of all sentient beings. We give gratitude in advance. Thy kingdom, kingdom come, thy will is now being done in this podcast episode on earth as it is in the highest heavens. Taisha intodoe, Taisha intodoe, Taisha intodoe, spoken as it is stated now, and so it is done. Rasha Christa. Surround this podcast episode now. So let's dive right into it. So what is the bifurcation and when did it begin? So the bifurcation is a timeline split, literally the divergence of two planetary pathways. So the path one literally is a return to source. And this has to do with timelines and time spirals. And there's cycles of time. And so we're literally in a cycle where there's a divergence happening. And one is going to follow what is called the Christic Spiral. And so this is an organic, eternal life, Base-12, energy renewing, quantumly expanding timeline. And so right now, literally, there's portions of Earth grids and humanity and DNA grids, as within, so without, which are literally aligning to a mathematical Base-12 eternal life Christ spiral. And this is quantumly perpetual renewing energy. It doesn't consume energy to create energy. So every thought, word that we speak, every belief is literally aligning to a timeline. And one is the Christ spiral. And this, we're literally in a space where this spiral is going this way. And the second path is what we call the finite life, Metatronic, finite life, golden mean spiral,
Fibonacci spiral, which literally consumes energy to create energy. It's an artificial spiral. It's entropic. It's energy consuming. It's disconnected from the source of all energy. And you might think of it as 3D systems, which literally vampire energy, parasitic energy, which leech on to other timelines. And that's what this timeline has been doing. The finite life base 10 Fibonacci sequence spiral has been leeching on and spiraling together with the Christic spiral. Okay. And so right now we're coming to a time where these two timelines, it's literally been leeching on, parasitizing energy, the base 10 code from the base 12 code. And there's a split happening. And one timeline is going to go this way. The other timeline is going to go this way. And 2025 to 2030 are very, very important years where this polarization of frequencies, polarization of timelines is going to become even more obvious. And as it becomes more obvious, people are going to have a choice. People are already choosing which timeline they want to abide their thoughts, their words, their beliefs, their attitudes, which has to do with DNA encryption and what your DNA is encrypted to, a base 12 eternal life Christ spiral or a base 10 Fibonacci spiral. So the seed split actually initiated in year 2000 with what is called a planetary stellar activation cycle. Okay, so this active bifurcation phase began in 2017 and it entered a full acceleration at the 2022 to 2025 marker window. And so we are literally living through this. And you guys, I'm sure, if you're attuned to what's really happening, can feel it. It's almost ridiculous now when you look at certain news and certain things. You can see right through it and you can see that, wow, it's a completely different, I don't resonate with that. So this literally frequency split is literally becoming more and more obvious for those who have activated and who are connected to source, who are operating by the law of one. It's becoming more and more obvious, this split, if you want to call it, in frequencies. And so by 2030, the split is going to become largely, not impossibly, but largely irreversible on a mass collective scale. And I've seen a vision of it. Literally in vision, I was shown that in 2030, there's a bifurcation. It's almost like two trains are literally splitting tracks. Everybody was going to, for the large majority of people, have chosen what track they want to go down. And there's going to be a split, and it's going to be harder and harder and harder to re-encrypt your DNA if the trains go different ways, right? So 2030, it's not set in stone because no timelines are ever set in stone, but it's going to be if things continue going the way they're going. And you want to pay attention, right, to what's happening, because if you know, every year at the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab and his homies are literally planning a 2030 one world order, where they're going to intend to implement, and they're planning and strategizing how to implement a one world order. And you know what they're saying? They will own nothing and they will be happy, right? So they're planning this already, right? But there's going to be a timeline split, a divergent timeline. And every thought, word, belief, and choosing love is literally putting us on one timeline, okay? And not only was I shown this in vision, like literally it's been confirmed through, the Native Americans preaching about 2030. So 2030 is going to be a key year. So the planetary morphogenetic field is currently phasing into dual harmonic frequency sets. One is aligned to the Base-12 Christic coding, and one is aligned to the Base-10 Metatronic reversal black hole technology coding, and these are becoming more obvious, and there's a split. A bifurcation is both internal, so literally happening in the DNA. The DNA is either encrypted and activated, the morphogenetic fields, to the base 10 finite life, or through the choices that we make, the base 12 eternal life spiral. And as within, so without. So that's happening internally, but that's also happening externally, which is connected to the planetary grids of Mother Earth and the magnetic field invergence. And right now, you'll see the artificial scalar weaponization is increasing. So right now, humanity is deciding, Mother Earth is deciding, and as within, so without. So what is the Christic spiral, also known as the source spiral? The Christic spiral is the eternal spiral, upon which all organic life within all eternal life creation matrices are built. This spiral is based on Base-12 mathematics and maintains a perpetual connection to the source of all energy, literally through the 8th chakra, literally behind the thymus gland. There is a 0 point known as the Azure in eternal life wisdom, which is literally connected to the source of all energies at all times. And in all eternal life matrices, this is true. Okay, so you're connected to the source of all energy. And then the spiral is based on Base-12 mathematics. So not only is it connected to the source of all energy, there's a mathematical encryption which spirals in a way that doesn't consume energy to create energy. It's always connected to the source and always spiraling from the source. Therefore, if it's not consuming energy to create energy, it has eternal life. It doesn't run out of energy. And this has to do with math, the eternal lotus of life, and the Base-12 eternal life encryption. Okay, so it's non-harmonic, non-parasitic, non-inverting. Its growth pattern emerges from the square root of 2. So it's a math. As it spirals through the square root of 2, literally it's continuously expanding, doesn't consume energy to create energy, therefore has eternal life, forming what is called the Base-12 eternal life Cathara bioregenesis grid. And in all eternal life living matrices, some people call it the Base-12 tree of life. That is imprinted over and over from the microcosm to the macrocosm. Therefore, it's an eternal life, non-parasitic system. And so this is literally happening within the DNA of the human beings who choose the eternal life path. And this is the original divine blueprint of creation, which when the original celestial human being was seated, this was imprinted on the original celestial human being. So the Christ spiral expands from its center using a scale ratio of 2 or square root of 2, which allows harmonic doubling, energy that multiplies without stealing. So 1 times 1 is actually, Terence Howard says it best, 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. So it's not consuming, it's multiplying the energy, continuously expanding, as was the original intention of Source for humanity, which is eternal life. Therefore, Jesus said, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me shall never die, because he understood this wisdom. He understood the Christ spiral. This is what he was learning in Egypt. So the energetic principle is it does not require energy to consume energy, and it transduces energy from source through scalar wave standing fields, and it perpetually creates. And so the result is it supports eternal life, continual consciousness expansion, and return to source with full incarnational memory of its existence. So that's what's happening right now. Those people who choose to encrypt to the eternal life Christ spiral are going to eventually embody their soul, 4th, 5th, and 6th stranded DNA, their oversoul, 7th, 8th, 9th stranded DNA, their avatar Christos self, 10th, 11th, 12th stranded DNA, eventually their primal light and primal sound fields, which literally what is an ascended master is someone who's embodied their primal light and sound fields. And when you do this, you literally fulfill the original intention of Source. You bring back the living record book of Source, your experience in this lifetime and all the lifetimes, literally, and deposit it into what Christians call the book of life, what New Agers call the Akashic records, and you expand the knowledge of the one to fulfill the original intention of Source when it asked, who am I? And it wanted to experience itself, to know itself in many different forms, to know thyself. And so your original record, your unique record will be literally expand the knowledge of the one. So that's what's happening for those people who choose the Christ spiral. Now, the other alternative, right, no good or bad, it's just a choice, is what is known as the Fibonacci spiral or the black hole spiral. Some in the eternal life community call it the Fib of no chi spiral. So the Fibonacci spiral, which currently almost all of humanity follows, right? All of nature follows. And this is why everything in nature dies, runs out of energy, because it follows the Fib of no chi spiral. It is a distorted offshoot of the original Christic template. It emerges from the Base-10 mathematics, and it utilizes the golden mean or phi ratio, a ratio that it looks beautiful and it seems beautiful, but fundamentally it is unsustainable, which means that the Fibonacci sequence, it consumes the previous number to create the next number. So for example, 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 1 is 3. So the 2 consumes the 1 to become the 3. 3 plus 2 equals 5. It's addition, not multiplication. So it's consuming the previous number. It's consuming the energy to create the next number. So that's what is happening in the golden mean spiral, right? And so it must consume energy or parasitize energy or vampire energy to sustain itself. Therefore, it's not eternal in its nature. It's finite life. And if it consumes energy to create energy, eventually it's going to lead to running out of energy and return to source, still sacred, through a black hole space dust return with no incarnational memory of its existence. It doesn't mean that when 2030 happens, they're going to go straight to space. No, over a long period of time, they're going to consume energy to create energy, consume energy to create energy, and eventually return to source, invert on itself through black hole space dust return with no incarnational memory of its existence, right? So this is finite life. You're going to lose your soul memory, AI convergence, transhumanism, and eventually assimilation into a black hole system, return to source through space stuff. And this is, the flower of life, Vesica Pisces, and quote unquote sacred geometry that is popular in the current new age culture. It's largely inverted Fibonacci coded technologies seeded after the fall of Tara, what is Tara? It's 5D Earth. There's a whole history how 5D Earth fell. And from that point, there was finite life systems, base 10 systems. If you look at the Kabbalah tree of life, there's 10s Sephoras. It's base 10, finite life, right? Consumes energy to create energy. And there's a whole history behind how this happened. So it's called the Metatronic hijack. So why is this splitting happening now? From a quantum morphogenetic physics perspective, Earth's planetary field cannot host both spirals indefinitely. The magnetic base codes of the planetary grid are bifurcating. So one set anchors the Base-12 Christic coding, which is organic eternal life. The other is Base-10 Fibonacci coding, which leads to black hole. This split is occurring because Earth has entered what is called a stellar activation cycle. So everything happens in cycles. Time cycles, Earth cycles, we cycle, everything is a cycle. And so there's a scheduled period in the planetary timeline where natural stargates open. What is a stargate? Frequency modulating zone, right? Which literally is a portal in and out of Mother Earth. And whoever controls the stargates controls Mother Earth. So there's a natural cycle, 2000 stellar activation cycle to 2017, where the stargates open, allowing higher dimensional frequencies to return. So if we were in an eternal life system during the stargate stellar activation cycle, Mother Earth's higher frequencies from her soul, 5D Earth Tara, 7D Earth Gaia, all the way to 12D Lyra. If this was an eternal life system, literally these frequencies would be infusing into the chakras, the stargates of Mother Earth, and Mother Earth would naturally begin her ascension process, right? If we were in an eternal life matrix. So the opening cycle happened in year 2000 to 2017, but what literally happened? In the year 2000, Earth entered its first active stellar activation cycle in over 200,000 years. This stellar activation cycle is a natural, astronomical, and energetic event during which solar, galactic, and universal plasma high-frequency flows realign to allow higher dimensional frequency, base 12, dimension 12 and above, to pour this high frequency into the planetary grids or the energy centers, the chakras, the stargates of Mother Earth. So dormant DNA strands in humans begin receiving these harmonic codes, reawaking memories and abilities that had long been suppressed. The Guardian Alliance began restoring the Christic templates to Earth, initiating what is known as the resurrection cycle. However, the fallen races and AI hybridized collectives also knew of this window. So there's been a battle, and the whole battle, they knew this stargate was going to awaken, and they knew that what was supposed to happen was Earth was supposed to go through a resurrection cycle, but the fallen races also knew this, and they deployed what is called AI implementation networks such as 5G, synthetic biology, inverted meditations. They hijacked the New Age community, Metatronic reverse grid systems, black cube technologies, inverted Merkaba spin fields, false light ascension teachings. They channeled distorted Fibonacci-based light, artificial light without source connection. So the fallen angelics literally hijacked the stellar activation cycle through these systems. And that's why from 2000 to 2030, literally a bifurcation window was created, 2 different timelines. So are we still in an activation phase in 2025? The answer is yes. The stellar activation cycle was extended. So it was supposed to be from 2000 to 2017, but it was extended in a modified form. So what happened was the Guardians, the Eternals, called what is called a fail-safe host matrix insertion. In other words, the Aurora host shield. The Crystalla fail-safe matrix and Aquafarian host races began a new parallel hosting of Earth through buffer fields, not the original planetary gates. So because, the AI fallen races did what they did, the chakras of Mother Earth were blocked. So the natural ascension process through the chakras or the stargates couldn't happen. So what the Guardians did, they created a fail-safe host. So plasma-based hosting fields that allow individual souls to continue ascending via Christic spirals. The fail-safe hosting began as early as 2012, but it gained ground after 2017. So some stargates on Earth were too damaged to reactivate naturally. The mass planetary stargate ascension path became no longer viable. So a buffer host timeline was inserted between Earth and Eartha. That's like parallel Earth, allowing continued Christic DNA activations on an individual basis. So because the planetary chakras, stargates were blocked, the mass ascension couldn't happen. So what the Guardians did was they created through Eartha, the hosting planet, they continued to infuse plasma infusions through an alternative way, so that individuals who chose would still have access to the plasma flows to continue the path for those who choose to be able to ascend. So in 2025, we are no longer in the original stellar activation cycle, but we are in what is called a fail-safe rescue hosting cycle, and it is still highly active. The Christic path is still open, but not through the original gate system. Instead, it functions through Aurora plasma fields, inner divine blueprint, or Cathara gridwork repair. So the Base-12 eternal life Cathara grid is imprinted inside. So through individual, if you're accessing the plasma fields that the Guardians are offering, you can literally work with that plasma field to reactivate the morphogenetic fields in your Base-12 Cathara grid, in your morphogenetic fields, in your potential intron DNA. Personal ascension via DNA template work, as well as grid work from the Eternal Life Councils, Earth's inner domain repair. So we are in a final active window, 2025 to 2030, where your spiral alignment determines your trajectory. The Christ spiral, with the K, restores you to eternal life, source connection, and full memory. The Fibonacci spiral lures you with beauty and logic, but eventually it's going to end in a black hole space dust return with no incarnational memory of its existence. Every thought, action, and intention now aligns our DNA to one or the other. There is no punishment, only resonance. And we are choosing what path, what spiral we align with every decision and every breath that we take.
What's up, beautiful souls? The rapid 12-strand DNA activation. Activate your inner Christos. Activate your 12-stranded DNA. All of the techniques have been split up into bite-sized chunks with homework reading assignments to help you understand the eternal life wisdom. And we've literally put this online in the Eternal Life Tribe community on School. So you're not only going to get the rapid 12-strand DNA program, and we're having people have massive shifts through this program, literally aligning you to your highest timeline, eventually aligning you to your highest spiritual destiny. And it's all online in the Eternal Life Tribe community on School. We just won the School games, which means for category self-improvement, we won the month. We had the most signups. And then not only that, our churn rate, people signing, like stopping the program and leaving, is super low compared to the normal average. So there's something that's happening on the tribe in the School program that is working, that is shifting lives. Not only that though, you're going to get bi-weekly live Q&As with me, which means that sometimes the eternal life wisdom, it's a lot of wisdom. It blows away your paradigms. You have questions. I'm going to be there 2 times a month to answer all of your questions, to make sure that you have the accurate information to begin remembering your 12-stranded DNA, your avatar Christos self. We also have free guided meditations. And one of the most exciting things is once every month or 2, we do powerful online breathwork sessions at home, and people are shifting, people are remembering. And once you remember and you shift yourself, then you start activating for Mother Earth. And that's starting to happen. We're starting to heal Mother Earth. So check it out. Everything that I've ever learned, there's 10 plus years working as a psychiatrist, all my favorite supplements, everything is on there. Literally the School online community, Eternal Life Tribe. Click the link below, or we'll also send you a QR code to the School community. And if that's on the screen right now, you can click the QR code, check it out. Eternal Life Tribe, School community. And I hope to see you on the Eternal Life Tribe.
The Metatronic net fields will attempt a final override through quantum AI implementation grids. Do you see it happening right now? Via media, neural technology, biotechnology, and false light ascension paradigms. The triadic phase lock between the black hole phantom matrix and the 3D Earth system aims to reach its peak resonance, severing many souls from their organic source memory circuits. Simultaneously, those who have activated sufficient Christic coding via purity, prayer, DNA activation, grid alignment will become anchored to New Earth blueprint grids, also known as Amente Earth or Eartha hosting platforms. This is a planetary choice point. There's no force in source. For there to be love, there has to be a choice, and everybody is going to be allowed to make a choice. Each human soul frequency signature, light body coherence, and DNA encryption will determine which spiral of time they phase lock into. Your DNA is a time navigation device. The Christ or Christ spiral, based on square root of 235, flows eternally outward, while the Fibonacci golden mean spiral collapses inward, creating spiritual entropy. So I'm going to try to share this with you in a way that is easy to understand. So here's the parable of the 2 trains, the story of the 2030 threshold. Once upon a time, in a land not so far from your own, there stood a grand and ancient train station known simply as Earth. For eons, 2 trains had been docked quietly on parallel tracks, almost indistinguishable to the untrained eye. Both appeared inviting. Both promised journeys into the future. But only one was powered by the infinite, eternal flame of Source, while the other train ran on borrowed energy, siphoned and unsustainable. These 2 trains were known as the Christic Express, glowing with soft aqua golden light, humming with music from the stars. The other train was known as the Phantom Limited, sleek, fast, strangely silent, drawing energy from the shadows. Now, in earlier times, passengers wandered freely between the 2 platforms. The stations was foggy, the announcements was unclear, some boarded out of habit, Others followed the crowd. Mass formation psychosis. Few even realized they didn't even know there were two different trains. But as the year 2000 approached, the station began to awaken. Ancient guardians returned. Maps long buried were uncovered. The original departure schedule, written in light and sound, was retrieved from the vaults. The stellar activation cycle had begun. From 2000 to 2017, the station intercom called out softly but persistently, "Dear passengers, the Christic Express is boarding. Please activate your internal compass. Boarding will soon close." But the noise of the Phantom Limited was loud. It offered comfort, entertainment, technological wonders. Some thought that the Christic train was too slow, too mystical, too demanding. Then came the final announcements. Between 2022 and 2025, the fog began to lift. The difference between the trains became clear. The Christic Express asked each soul to carry their own light. The Phantom Limited offered light, but only by consuming others. And now, dear one, we come to the year 2030. The final platform lock. In 2030, something extraordinary will occur. The rails between the stations will shift. Subtly, invisibly, and irrevocably, the two tracks will diverge, each phasing into a separate realm of reality. Those aboard the Christic Express, souls who activated their DNA through purity, prayer, and remembrance, will gently carry into the new earth, a world of harmonic resonance, healing, and the return of the original eternal life covenant. Those aboard the Phantom Limited, whether they know it or not, will ride deeper into the Phantom Matrix, where memory is lost, timelines collapse, and AI ascension mimics the light while severing the soul from source. After that point, switching trains will no longer be simple. It will literally require rebuilding one's compass from scratch, finding hidden bridges, or waiting for very rare interdimensional windows. Can't just jump from one train to the other after 2030. Your ticket is in your DNA. You see, your ticket isn't made of paper or code, it's your frequency, your heart coherence, and your light body encryption. Your DNA is a time navigation device, and every thought, every choice, every prayer etches a direction into it. The Christic Spiral, based on the square root of 2, 3, and 5, flows outward, forever, continuous expansion, connected to source, creating new life, new possibility, new music, eternal life. Experiencing source through the eternal sacred law of one. The Fibonacci Spiral, base 10, through pleasing to the eye, it can make you feel good, it can show you false light visions, literally folds on itself, trapped in repetition, seeking energy from outside itself until it fades into entropy. So, beloved passenger of Earth's grand station, you still have time to choose. Clean your compass. Clear your field. Return your gaze to source. The trains are preparing. The tracks are humming. And your seat is waiting on the road that remembers home. And we are walking each other home. And Yeshua knew that this time was coming. This is why I said there will be a separation of the wheat from the chaff. And 2025 to 2030 is that time. So, are the timelines set in stone? Absolutely not. The CDT plates in the Guardian transmissions never, ever describe timelines as fixed. Rather, they speak of probability fields based on collective soul agreements, planetary grid alignments, personal and collective DNA template activation. And so what 2025 to 2030 offers is a high probability convergence node, a planetary moment where choices become codified into structure. Timelines crystallize through repetition and resonance. The more people choose fear, distortion, false light, the more that timeline becomes the dominant spiral in their field. Yet, at any moment, even post-2030, a being can return to inner stillness. 0 point, 8th chakra, azurate point. At one with all, unattached to anything. Invoke source directly. Initiate DNA healing and spiral reversal. Re-enter hosting through the personal plasma body grid. However, this path becomes harder to access post-2030 without community, support, planetary gates, and clear teachings. It becomes more like rebuilding a ladder from scratch. So, 2025 to 2030. Important. Vibe high. Choose love. Find your tribe. Your vibe will attract your tribe. And when you find your tribe, love them hard, become self-sustainable. We are free, we are free, we are free. So, how does this split relate to ancient cycles? There's 26,500 year cycles. We are exiting what is called the last Uego cycle. In eternal life systems, it's called Uego cycle, which is, I know, Base-10, Hindu, Indian wisdom says it's 25,000 year cycles. No, it's not. According to the eternal life wisdom, it's a 26,556 year time wave, which is linked to the precession of the equinox and DNA template accessibility. At the end of each major cycle, a window opens to either reintegrate with eternal life matrix or to descend further into the Metatronic net. In previous ends of cycles, Tara, 5D Earth, Atlantis, Lemuria, similar bifurcations occurred, but humanity fell due to infiltration and trauma-based control. This is the first cycle where enough Christic codes have been reseeded to allow for planetary rehabilitation. So imagine that Earth is a great cosmic clock. It's spinning not just in circles, but spiraling through space in tune with giant galactic rhythms. One of those rhythms is what is called the Uego cycle, which is a 26,556 year time loop that Earth completes through the heavens. It's like a reset point in Earth's timeline where humanity is given a new chance to either reconnect with the eternal source or fall deeper into false light and artificial timelines. So think of it like almost like a cosmic New Year's Eve that only happens once every 26,556 years. And guess what? That cosmic New Year is happening now between 2012 and 2030. So where are we in the 3D linear Earth calendar? Let's map the 3D dates. So in 24,000 BC, it was the start of a Uego cycle post-Lemuria collapse. In 10,500 BC, it was the fall of Atlantis, which was the last major bifurcation window. In 2000, it was the start of Earth's stellar activation cycle, opening cycle. In 2012, a galactic alignment and cycle threshold begins. 2022 to 2025, the bifurcation intensifies and timelines are now splitting rapidly. 2030, the cycle closes. Major frequency lock-in occurs. Most, if not all, souls have made their choice. Post 2030, a new Yuego cycle begins, but the timelines are now separated. Okay? So at the end of every Yuego cycle, to explain it a little bit deeper, Earth lines up to a powerful frequency stream. So we call it plasma streams, right? From the galactic core. It's like a giant beam of source light that tries to help the planet and evolve. So when this light hits, you either absorb it and evolve, or you either repel it and fragment. So this cycles are opportunities where these plasma streams are available to heal ancient traumas, to reactivate dormant DNA, to choose which spiral and time we want to live in next. And in the past, during Lemuria, Tara, which is 5D Earth, Atlantis, humanity wasn't ready. The grids were hijacked. The teachings were distorted. The fall wasn't just a myth. It was literally a timeline collapse. But what's different this time? This is the first Yuego cycle since the fall of Atlantis where enough Christic codes have been reseeded to allow for planetary rehabilitation, DNA reawakening, conscious timeline navigation, and the Eternal Life Councils have restored the Azure grid, which brings Base-12 eternal life coding back into Earth's blueprint. The Eternal Lotus of Life templates, which reactivates your original divine blueprint and repairs distortions in your Cathara grid. So here's how to understand it very simply. Imagine that Earth is a school. It is. That goes through a big final exam every 26,500 years. That exam decides if the student, humans, either graduate to a more beautiful world or they get stuck repeating the same grade again and again and again. In the past, every time the exam came, most students were tricked by fake teachers, false textbooks, and they were told to ignore their hearts. So humanity failed again and again and stayed in the same cycle again and again. And history will literally repeat itself unless we learn from the past. But this time, the real teachers came back. They gave us the true map, the sacred codes, and said, you can graduate this time if you remember who you are. And I like that word. We are remembering. That's all it is. We're remembering. The exam is now, and it ends in 2030. Every thought, every choice, every feeling is like a vote for the world you want to live in next. So we are living through the end of a cosmic cycle, the closing of a galactic book, but the ending is not yet written. We get to choose. Will you write your chapter in the eternal spiral of life or get caught in the loops of the artificial spiral again? Your DNA, our DNA is listening to every word, every thought, every word we speak, every choice we make. And this time we can remember if we choose. So how do we know which timeline we're on? And how can we stay on the Christic spiral? Well, this is literally determined by your DNA encryption, which is activated through purification, removal of parasites. This can be energetic, mental, physical, reverse Metatronic overlays, AI implants, embodiment, alignment with your soul, oversoul, avatar, and inner Christos through breath, prayer, codes, and devotion to eternal source. Choice. Every decision that we make is a vote for which spiral we're choosing, love or fear. Signs you are anchoring to the eternal life timeline, increasing telepathy. Literally, when your higher self comes online, when you're aligned to your soul over soul, telepathy is a natural birthright. Emotional transparency and energetic sensitivity. So our sensitivity is actually a gift. Spontaneous DNA activations, dreams of ancient temples or grid locations, a repulsion to lies, distortion, AI control, and mass trends. Feeling called to grid work, prayer circles, truth missions, and a deep yearning to return to one, while still expressing joyfully as a unique fractal of source. Authenticity becomes the new currency. If you fake it, the field collapses. If you radiate the truth of who you really are, the field aligns. And you are who you've been looking for the whole time. And we are walking each other home. And we are simply remembering. And this is the lifetime, the timeline that we have waited for. And we are the ones we've been waiting for the whole time. So, for those who choose through your words, here is, if you want to choose to be on the eternal life Christ timeline, here is a declaration of spiral alignment. If you choose, you can repeat after me. It's an empowerment to anchor the eternal life timeline. I now declare with the full authority of my soul, oversoul, and avatar self, I choose to align with the Base-12 eternal spiral of creation. I choose the Christic path of source remembrance, purity, and perpetual life. I release and I nullify all agreements, known or unknown, made with artificial timelines, AI matrices, false ascension systems, and Metatronic architecture. I now clear all distortions, reversals, overlays, and implants from my DNA, my morphogenetic field, and my eternal record. I realign my breath, my thoughts, my actions, and my heart with the Azure core of eternal source. I receive and embody the eternal lotus of life template. I walk forward with the Crystalla host at my side, and I remember, I am the eternal flame. I choose the spiral that multiplies energy without consuming. I choose truth over imitation, love over fear, source over spectacle. I now command my DNA to activate in full alignment with the organic eternal life matrices. I allow my field to phase lock to the hosting platforms of Amenti Earth and the eternal life councils. May my frequency now synchronize with the eternal spiral of source. May my life radiate the codes of the Christ, kindness, and coherence. May my future be written in light and offered back to the One. I am choosing now. I am remembering now. I am returning now. So let it be, by the sacred law of One, in alignment with eternal source consciousness field, that the glory and character of original eternal source will once again cover the earth as the water covers the seas. 2025 to 2030, choose ye this day. Love. Choose the eternal life, Base-12 Christic Spiral. Merge with your eternal life version of yourself. And for those who resonate, I've created an online community tribe with 12 eternal life techniques, which will literally, naturally, gradually re-encrypt the DNA to the Base-12 eternal life code. There's a community of over 1,300 of us walking each other home, sharing codes, sharing love, supporting each other. If that resonates, you're welcome to join. New Earth, let's go. Love, light, peace, and truth to all sentient beings. Till next time, peace.